of Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Talking Twins. Declan Goff, Jake Depew in, Judd Zogat out at Vikings camp, so another Pavano Butera edition of Talking Twins here. Jake, we're going to get into some more notes in the Bronx as the Twins' ineptitude continues. Thank God for a hurricane. We don't have to finish that series, honestly. I've never thought I'd have to say thank you to a hurricane for forcing something out of our normal lives, but
that was
good God.
We'll get into that. I don't even know what to say anymore about the Twins-Yankees.
We will we'll talk about that in here in just a little bit. We'll also have some other things of note here on this edition of Talking Twins. But Jake, let's actually start what happened in St. Paul over the weekend. Joe Ryan made his St. Paul Saints debut, I should say, at CHS Field over the Iowa Cubs. He was on the Olympic team. He was off for about a couple weeks. He is now officially in the Twins organization. He made his first start with the Twins, or with the St. Paul Saints, I should say, last Friday against Iowa. I was at the game. I covered it for Score North. And, sometimes, and I'm not going to pretend to be an insane scouting guy by any means. I also had to move seats from the press box, get a better view of him. But I think there is something about going and seeing someone in person and not just obviously looking at scouting reports or watching YouTube highlights. And I know you were watching, I believe, from afar or seeing at least Twitter feeds and tweets coming in on him. So I wanted to get a good look at him. He was obviously the key piece in the Nelson Cruz trade. Same thing. You and I were just talking about for the last month about this is kind of the one that we do want to see a lot. And I know he's not the most prized possession that they've got in these trades with Nelson Cruz and Jose Brios, et cetera, but still someone that might be the closest thing to Major League ready. And Jake, I guess, from what I saw from him, he was pretty damn dominant. 4 innings. He was on a 70-pitch count since he hadn't thrown in about 10, 11 days coming back from the Olympics. So he was on a pitch count, but struck out 9, including 6 in a row to start the ball game. He did give up 1 hit. It was a bomb to right field. It was an absolute tater tot that he gave up. But outside of that, he was basically flawless in his start. Regularly 94, 95 miles an hour. And I have heard the gun there does run a little hotter than normal at CHS Field. So maybe that 92 to 93 range that other scouting reports and other people have said on him is maybe a little bit more accurate. But he's definitely a heavy fastball pitcher. He relied on it a ton, 67 pitches or so, and I believe 45 plus of them were fastballs. But in general, a very encouraging start from what I saw from him in his St. Paul Saints debut.
Yeah, and you've seen him more than I have. I only saw a little bit of that game. I saw a little bit of him pitch in the Olympics, but my sample size is pretty small. But honestly, I'm just really impressed with the guy. He, like you said, he mostly throws fastballs, which is really interesting, and we can get more into that and whether that'll be an issue moving forward. But it like you said, he sits like 93, 94. Maybe if the CHS gun is fast, maybe it's more 92, 93. But he gets tons of swing and miss on that 4-seam fastball. Seems like it really pops. It's got a lot of ride to it, and so. Between his performance at the Olympics and what he did in that debut, where did he strike out you said he struck out the side in the first 2 innings, I believe, right?
First and second. Yep. Struck out 6 in a row.
Yeah, it's crazy. And, I was following along on your Twitter feed, and I could tell you were really impressed. And obviously he, I think we're in agreement that he probably needs to develop a third pitch beyond that fastball and changeup. But still, the swing and miss he gets on a 93-mile-an-hour fastball, there's obviously a lot of deception to it, a lot. And so that's a really intriguing pitch. Now, whether that means he's ultimately a starter or reliever, like if he can't develop a third pitch, maybe he is more of a reliever. But I still see him long-term as a starter. But I'm curious, just watching him, again, neither of us are professional scouts or anything, but what seemed really impressive to you against that Iowa Cubs lineup? Was he getting lots of swing and miss? Did hitters look like they were late on that fastball? What did you see from him that was so impressive?
Yeah, he loved his fastball. It's definitely a heavy pitch for him. And I like 2 things about him. Number one, he's got a lot of demeanor and swagger on the mound. I like an animated pitcher. I know that might piss people off. Sergio Romo was super, super animated. He's not on, obviously, Romo level. I don't think anyone really is. He's in a league of his own there. But I like a guy that shows a little swagger on the mound. And in general, yeah, I would say he definitely will have to find a third pitch if he's going to make it long-term as a starting pitcher in the big leagues. But, look, if he can pump regularly 95 miles an hour fastballs, that's a pretty damn good place to be. And it's clearly a deceptive pitch for him. One play that also at least stood out to me was there was a foul pop-up on the left side, just right in front of the visiting clubhouse. And, typically, obviously, as we know, like pitchers don't field pop-ups. It's not something in their DNA. They'll let the infield take it. And it wasn't a high enough one, obviously, where the catcher or third baseman was going to get to it in time. And Joe Ryan books it off the mound and nearly makes this grab. And
I love that.
Typically you would, I know like baseball hustle and old school baseball players probably love that. They're probably like, oh my God, that's so great. Look at him hustle off the mound there. And there might be some like new age people like, oh no, why is he running full speed after a ball that he shouldn't be? I don't know. I thought it was an awesome, yeah, me too. I thought it was a really, really impressive play because he almost made this grab when he didn't have to move off that mound. He could just do his job of being a pitcher and being a hurler. And instead he literally chugs it and almost makes a great grab in foul territory. I mean, you don't see pitchers do that. So you can tell that I think just the way, and this is more off the mound stuff that I really, really like from him. That demeanor is really, really impressive. So to me, I think that's awesome that he was able to do that. I'm curious what he's going to be able to do long term to make it as a starting pitcher going forward. But in general, I thought it was a pretty damn impressive debut for him.
Yeah, and I like that too. And that's one of those anecdotes that you don't necessarily pick up on if you're just reading scouting reports or whatever. Like that, chasing after that foul ball, like that really does lend a little bit of insight into kind of his demeanor on the mound, how engaged and locked in it seems like he is, just, based on that start and based on what you were talking about. And the fact, I know there weren't fans at the Olympics, but like the fact that he was able to step in, I mean, he was their game one starter. He started the first game of the Olympics and then also started in the semifinals against South Korea. So, that shows what they thought of him, and it shows the trust that they had in him. And the fact that he was able to pitch so well in a really high pressure situation like that does also add more, I think, to the demeanor. And it's funny because he seems like I haven't interviewed him or anything, but like it seems to me like off the mound, he seems like a pretty kind of laid back, kind of a West Coast vibe, kind of a chill dude. And so I love that, like, he's able to kind of lock in and switch gears when he gets on the mound. I love guys like that. So, yeah, I mean, again, like you said, he has to develop a third pitch, I think. But the fact that he has that fastball that gets so much swing and miss combined with all the other things that you just talked about, I think both of us are really excited about him, and I think he'll be up. I think he could be up his next start. Like, it wouldn't shock me. I think he'll be up soon.
So I asked around too in the press box as well, and it sounded like too from people who I talked to who obviously work for the team. They said if he pitches like that again, like that's it. Like, he maybe one or two more starts if he's that damn dominant again. I mean, he'll be here, possibly before September call-ups. But I would be I'd be pretty shocked if he's not on this club very, very soon. Yeah. And, and Kenta Maeda goes down obviously with the Yankees too. So there could be something that opens up there just naturally. Sometimes that's kind of how, when we're always looking for let's just get this guy in the rotation. Well, unfortunately, injuries sometimes do play a part in that. And we'll see how severe that Kenta Maeda injury is from over the weekend. But I'm with you. I mean, I think in general, he's going to make just one or two more starts. He already made a handful of them with Tampa Bay. So I would be pretty shocked if he's not up here soon. And then obviously making a very serious case in 2022 to break the roster. I'd be very, very impressed if he can do that. For sure. And I think another benefit of him going to the Olympics is that, he made those two starts. I think he pitched like five or six innings in the first start and like 4 2/3 in the second. But that really brought down his innings, for the year. Like, right. I mean, that was probably like a month between, going there, getting back, getting readjusted. Like, he probably only pitched, those 8 or 9 innings in the Olympics over a month. And so that kind of, I think, gives a little bit more reassurance to the Twins that he can handle, going deep into September, probably for the first time in his career. And so, like you said, that the injury to Maeda, along with his, his innings count, whatever innings limit he's on, if he's on one, I think we're going to see him in September. They only get 2 extra roster spots in September, so it's not like past years where they can just call up anybody on the 40-man, but still, I think he deserves it. And regardless, he's going to be in the mix in 2022 without question. I would actually pencil him in right now as probably one of the 5 starters that breaks camp with the Twins in 2022. Yeah, you definitely don't want to just assume that, all right, because he doesn't have great secondary pitches, that he can't be a good, contributor and starter right away. He's still a young guy and can obviously develop that. Tyler Duffy's obviously was a good example of someone who threw hard right away and was a 2-pitch pitcher and then turned into a pretty effective reliever over a stretch. I know he's had a little bit of a rougher season this year, but in general, I think this guy is actually going to really contribute to the Twins. And worst case, he does become a very high leverage super reliever, if you will. If that fastball regularly can sit at 93, 94, and if he obviously becomes a reliever, Glenn Perkins, same example. I know he was a lefty, Joe Ryan a righty. You can put a little more zip on that fastball, and all of a sudden 94, 95 turns into 96, 97. You can always use big bullets like that in your bullpen. So worst case scenario, I really do think he projects as a very good reliever, and obviously the best case is he does contribute and becomes the starting pitcher that people think he can be.
Yeah, I think the Duffy comp is a good one, that they're going to try him as a starter, obviously. And if he can't develop that third pitch, then you're right. Maybe he becomes a really effective reliever. But I'd be very surprised if he doesn't contribute in some way once this next window opens for the Twins.
Also in St. Paul, Byron Buxton, he was back for the first time in about 2 months. He batted third, played center on Friday, a couple flyouts to right field. There was a weird play where the right fielder misjudged a ball, and it looked like he trapped it because Buxton came up, I believe, with the bases loaded or runners at first and at second and third or first. And there was 2 runners on at least. He hits a ball in his first at bat to right field, and the right fielder I think misjudged it. There was a little wind. There was some rain about to come in, and I thought he actually trapped it. And I think Buxton and everyone else thought he trapped it, but then the umps gathered together and said, no, he made the catch, and it was a weird play. But in general, a couple flyouts for him to the opposite field on Friday. They rested him Saturday, which, by the way, I'm fine with that. I know some people are like, well, he's already getting a day off of rest. Like, what does it matter? Like, it's a lost season. The guy has been made of glass his entire career. If he doesn't want to play a Saturday AAA game, I'm cool with that. And then he comes back on Sunday, does hit a bomb. I'm guessing we'll probably be with the big league club in the middle of the week here as we record on Monday, August 23rd. But Byron Buxton nearing his return to the big leagues after another stint on the injured list.
Yeah, and it'll be good to see him. We got all excited. He missed about 40 games due to the hip injury. We got all excited. He came back for 3 games. He played extremely well, and then he, gets hit in the hand and is out again. I will say the one, and I don't even want to call it a blessing in disguise, but I guess the one positive of him going back on the IL is it allowed that hip to fully heal, because there was some debate about, like, is he actually healthy? Remember, the Twins kind of held him back when he said he was ready to play when he was coming back from that hip injury. So now at least that presumably is fully healed. But yeah, I would expect him back, hopefully, in this Boston series, if not for sure when they get back home to Minnesota. And, hopefully he can stay healthy and put together a final 5 weeks. To me, like, it wouldn't shock me at all if he just picks it up right where he left off and is hitting for power and average. I mean, the fact that he looked good in that, those 2 AAA games and hit a home run and, was sprinting all out from what I saw on Twitter. Like, I think he's just going to step right in and be Byron Buxton again. And it's just going to be a matter of whether he stays healthy. The other thing with Buxton is, unfortunately, we could be watching his final at bats in a Twins uniform over these next 5 weeks. I mean, if they do trade him, and I'm on record as saying I think that would be a really bad idea unless some team just, gives you a ridiculous offer you can't turn down. But like, this could be it. If they move him in the offseason, this could be it. And so as maybe the world's biggest Byron Buxton apologist and just a huge fan of watching him play, I'm definitely going to tune in, for all of his at bats for the remainder of the season. And he's, along with Joe Ryan and a couple other guys, I think he's going to be somebody that's still worth watching as they play out the string here in 2021.
Last thing, and from St. Paul before we move on to what happened with the big league club, I would assume, Jake, that if there's 2 guys that I do want to see added to this 40-man roster, because I believe both of them are, it is Jose Miranda and Joe Ryan. I believe Miranda is not on the 40-man either. Now, as Patrick Royce so eloquently always likes to put it, give me a pencil, I can find room on any 40-man roster. And with this Twin season, obviously, basically in the tank and them rotating so many guys in and out, give me a pencil. I can find that very easily. I think those are the 2 dudes. If they're just going to call up 2 guys, because especially, like you said, it can only go to 28 players, only 2 extra. I think those are the 2 that I definitely want to see the most added back to the roster.
Yeah, I mean, Jose Miranda has to be up. Like, he is there's no reason not to call him up other than if they want to play the service time game. But like the year that he's put up at AA and AAA is remarkable. Like it's insane. And his consistency is insane. Like he had a 996 OPS at AA over like 48 games, came up to AAA. And I think he's played basically the same number of games, like 47, 48, 994 OPS. So like, I mean, he hasn't missed a beat. He hasn't slumped at all. He's hitting for power and average. The glove has always been legit. He can play all 4 infield positions. I am super excited about Jose Miranda. I had somebody tell me on Twitter, like, oh, he's blocked. And so that might be one of the reasons they don't call him up because of Donaldson. And, in my view, like Donaldson's not even playing third that much right now. Yeah. He's playing a lot of DH. Also, calling Miranda up could give them a chance to IL Donaldson if he's willing to do that to get him a little bit healthier. But like Jose Miranda is clearly a part of the future. He has to be added to the 40-man in the offseason. And by the way, he was Rule 5 eligible last year, and no team took him. So they could have lost Jose Miranda last year, but obviously no team, was willing to take a chance on him, and he hadn't had that breakout yet. But I would love to see him in the big leagues. He's had one of the best years of any minor leaguer out there. I mean, it's just crazy what he's doing. And when you watch him hit, like, it's mostly just highlights that I see, but like he's reaching out and getting a barrel on balls that are like, down and in. And like, it's not like he's just hitting meat fastballs. Like he looks like a really complete hitter. And so I really want to see what he can do against big league pitching. So don't play the service time game, just call him up and let's see what he can do.
Yeah, I mean, his numbers are basically identical between 47 games in Wichita, 48 games in St. Paul, 994 OPS, 986 OPS, 338 average, 345, slugging 592, slugging 588. I mean, the guy, it's one thing to be mashing AAA pitching, but AA is obviously where the top prospects are. And when a young kid like that then also morphs into AAA, and now you're seeing veteran players, I mean, he's still crushing the ball. He's 23 years old. I agree. If Donaldson especially isn't going to be playing third base and is going to be DHing a ton, I mean, there it is right there. It makes a ton of sense. Like if I'd be shocked and be pretty upset if Willians Astudillo and Josh Donaldson are playing the majority of third base when there's a great opportunity here for Jose Miranda to get, 50 to 75 at bats in September before the season ends. So I'm with you there.
Yeah, it'd be a big missed opportunity if they don't do that. Absolutely.
Jake, let's go to what happened in the Bronx again. Is it 106? What was the graphic? 106 and 34 or something?
It's 108 and 38. The Yankees are 108 and 38 against the Twins since 2002, including the playoffs. That's a 739 winning percentage. Extrapolated out to a full season, it almost is a full season of games at this point. But for a full season, it'd be 120 and 42 would be the record. I've just baseball. The worst teams beat the best teams, like 40% of the time, Yeah. So for this to happen over a 20-year stretch, and with a lot of good Twins teams too, like a lot of playoff teams in that mix, for them to be this inept, it's just, I honestly think it might be the most incredible thing I've seen following baseball my whole life. Like how crazy this is. Like you watch these games, especially the games in the Bronx, and it's like, it feels like it's already written. Like it just seems like they have no chance. And I don't know, like I can't just say it's fluky or luck at this point, because it's almost a full season's worth of games, including all these playoff games when the Twins are obviously putting their best players out there. They're good teams. It's not like 2021 or 2016 where they're fielding lineups that have maybe some AAA guys in them. I mean, they, again, a lot of good teams, and they just are so inept. It's just crazy. Like, and they've just falling behind. I think they fell behind 6-0, maybe in all 3 of those games, at least 2 of those games. It's like decade after decade, front office after front office, different players. It's just the same story over and over and over. Like, have you seen anything like this in any sport, honestly?
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of just head to head complete dominance and also epic choke jobs that have been this before. I mean, when I think of putrid, really bad, the Cleveland Browns up until this last year, right? Now they're finally looking like they're trending in the right direction on the NFL side. For 20 years, they were awful. They were just awful. They were getting dominated mostly by everyone. This is a special kind of thing, because even Peyton Manning, who had like struggles in the playoffs against like Tom Brady, there was a few times Peyton Manning beat Tom Brady. Like Brady got the best of the majority of the meetings, but there were instances where he won the game to go to the Super Bowl. Or he won a big game against Tom Brady. This is obviously the Yankees being the most, you can make a case, the most successful sports franchise ever against the Twins, who have been, for the majority of the last 20 years, also a very successful team with, I know, some blips in the radar there, but this isn't the worst team in the world that has been it. These have been really good teams. These have been teams that have set major league records, teams that have won division titles, and it's remarkable. I mean, in 2017, we went to the wild card game, and they went up 3-0, and it was like, oh my God, it's happening. I remember being absolutely juiced that this was gonna happen, and then even when the bottom of the half inning happens and the Yankees tie things up, it's like, are you serious? Is this how this is going to be written again and again and again? And in 2019, similar story. The moment they lost game one, which at the time I thought, all right, like that was a winnable game, tough break, but I think it'll be all right. But then the moment they announced Randy Dobnak, you knew like this is happening all over again. Like this isn't just the Yankees will beat us because of the Yankees. This is self-sabotage. This is everything about it, and it is frustrating. I went to Game 3 in 2019 at the one game at Target Field in the 20 ALDS, and I remember when they the Twins load the bases, I believe, in the bottom of the first inning, and no one out. And I remember thinking, if they don't get a run here, they're going to lose this game. And of course, I believe they went 1-2-3, didn't even get a single run across, maybe a sac fly if my memory serves right.
No
but
runs.
Just that feeling, that like utter terrible, and I can't explain like what it is like watching playoff and watching Twins-Yankees, because it is an indescribable feeling of torture that I continue to do to myself year in and year out.
Me too, and it's actually easier during seasons like this, where they're not in contention. It's like it's still like that, that gut punch, but it doesn't hurt quite as bad as when they are in contention, or obviously when it's the playoffs. Like these last 3 games, I honestly just like kind of start laughing when it happens, because it's just so inexplicable. I go back to, you mentioned the bases loaded, nobody out thing in 2019. I go back to 2009. Game 2, the Joe Mauer game, when he hit that double down the line that Phil Cuzzi inexplicably called foul. That was in like the 11th or 12th inning that he hit that. He still ended up singling that at bat, so he still got on base, and they loaded the bases with nobody outs in that game in extra innings. And I think like Delman Young lined out. I think Carlos Gomez like popped out. And maybe like Brendan Harris was involved in that. I'd have to go look, but I'll never forget that game, because it's like, okay, bases loaded, nobody out, it's extra innings, just have to get 1 run home. And that was also the game, by the way, where Joe Nathan blew the save on A-Rod hit a 2-run home run, and they couldn't get it done. And as soon as that happened, I was like, that's it. Like, it's just, they're going to hit a walk-off home run. And I think it was Teixeira who hit a walk-off home run in the bottom half of that inning. And it's just game after game after game, year after year after year. I just don't know what to say about it anymore. To me, it's worse than, a lot of people compare it to like Red Sox Yankees, and like the Red Sox finally got over the hump in 2004. But like the Red Sox at least were winning games. Like those series were going like 7 games. And then they, like the 2003 ALCS, the Red Sox lost in 7 games. The Twins can't even win a game in a lot of these series, So it's like, it's bizarre, man. And 20 years. I have no idea when this is going to end, if it ever does.
Yeah, it is frustrating. Jake, I know we were going to do buy, sell stock. Actually, let's say that for a next episode. But sure. As we wrap up here, and I don't know why I think you and I have been talking about this guy for the majority of the last few months, because again, he's so polarizing me, and I'm just trying to figure out what player he is. But it's Max Kepler. Again, going through another weird stretch where at first, as July ended up wrapping up, and even in the early parts of August, looks like, he's stringing together some good games here. The injuries are behind him. And now again, I believe over the last about 13, 14 games, hitting 184, average right around 202 right now. I just, for the life of me, can't figure out what kind of guy they want and what kind of player Max Kepler can be. And it's just another, I don't want to say failed prospect, because he has shown his life. And in 2019, he was a damn good player, got MVP votes. But it's just, he's someone that I don't know why, but I keep gravitating towards. And I can't figure out what kind of player he can be.
He is really hard to figure out because he's in his prime right now. Like I think this is like his age 27 or 28 season. Like he should be absolutely, mashing right now. And he's struggling to keep his average above 200. And I know he's never been a big average guy. Like that's not his game. He draws walks, he hits for power. But yeah, I mean, he's in another slump. He's been like you said, he's been very streaky this year in particular. We rip Sano a lot for being streaky. We probably should be ripping Kepler more than we do, to be honest, for how streaky he is, and just never really putting it together other than 2019. He had, like you said, he had an amazing year in 2019, but if you look at his numbers for every other season, there isn't a lot that jumps out. It's mostly sort of like a 220 to 240 average, like a 330 OBP, slugging in the 440s. Like it's not bad. I mean, he's a decent player, a solid player, but he's not, he's kind of struggling to stay as an everyday player in a corner outfield spot. Because, if you're playing corner outfield, you have to really hit, because it's not a super valuable position defensively. Obviously, he can play center. I don't think he's great there. He's really more of a right fielder to me. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on with him. I expected to see more. And after 2019, I thought he'd become a superstar, really.
Right.
And if you look at his numbers compared to even Sano, Sano's having a better year in terms of OPS and things like that than Kepler is. So obviously both those guys have been disappointments, but I don't know. I wish I had a better answer for you. I can't quite figure him out. I would say the Twins will try to move him, but if he doesn't finish the season well, it's hard to see them getting value for him. Like if he finishes the season with a 210 average and like a 420, 430 slugging, like what are they really going to get for him? So he is on a team friendly contract and that's good, but I don't know. Do you have any better answers for what you're seeing out of him, why he's struggling? Because I can't figure it out.
No, I can't either. And yeah, I know we ripped Sano. At one point we were ripping Jorge Polanco before now he has looked like the team MVP over the last 3 months. But I mean him, Kepler, Sano, Buxton, even Polanco, all these guys were basically drafted around the same time, came up around the ranks around the same time. Polanco obviously looking like the best of the bunch, and Buxton, when he's on the field, is obviously the best, but the availability has still been questioning there, and it stinks. Eventually you're not going to be able to hit on every prospect, but all these core players are together, and you would like to see them. And in 2019, they blossom. You think, oh, this is it. This will be years of this. This will be these guys, the core players for Twins baseball. The next, Torrey Hunters and Jock Jones and all that area that we saw, 20 years ago, and this will be replicated again. And unfortunately, these guys regress at different times, and it can be tough to buy in and buy all the stock, even when the hype was real about their prospect rankings. That eventually, just guys don't pan out, and they aren't going to hit that ceiling that you thought there could be. And now I think there's more stands on the Miguel Sano front of that. They still hold on to the one hope that just because he can park a baseball 490 feet, that he's going to be that he's still a good player. But I mean, the pedigree of some of these prospects, they were supposed to be franchise-altering guys like Buxton and Sano. And unfortunately, whether it's their fault or us, our fans and media and scouts' fault for overhyping them, they haven't delivered on that. And it's just frustrating on my soapbox here as I kind of talk in circles around it. It's frustrating to hear.
No, you're right. You're right. And that's totally justified. I mean, I think Buxton, obviously there have been injuries. I think he has delivered when he's been on the field, but the injuries have been so significant that, that's obviously a big flaw, unfortunately, in his how he profiles. Polanco, like you mentioned, he's the MVP of the team this year, and he has rebounded, and that's good to see. It seems like health was a big issue for him. It seems like that ankle is finally healthy. He seems speedier to me down the line too. He's stealing bases. So like, he has been great, and he's so consistent. Like even when he was hurt, he was playing every day. But yeah, with Sano and Kepler, and obviously the injuries to Buxton, this core group has been solid, and they've delivered 3 playoff appearances, but no playoff wins. And certainly you're right. I don't think they've lived up to that previous generation of Torrey and Kadire and some of those guys. But yeah, I mean, they're still all under contract for next year, so we'll see them at least for another year, hopefully, and so maybe they can deliver. But yeah, I mean, not all prospects pan out, but it is unfortunate that some of those guys, especially after 2019, like you said, haven't kind of taken that next step.
Jake, one last note here before we wrap. Going back to that ineptitude of the Twins and Yankees, because I was doing the math on this on Thursday, right when the series started. I tweeted this out. Since the last time the Twins have won a playoff game, every single team in the American League but Seattle and Minnesota has won a playoff series. So every single team. 13 since 2004, 13 out of 15 teams in the American League have at least made it to the ALCS.
Wow.
And the Twins haven't won a single playoff game. Could you imagine in even 2008, 2009 that, hey, the Kansas City Royals are going to go to back-to-back World Series before you. Everyone in the division is going to be in the World Series before you were. And here are the Twins who had lost 19 consecutive playoff games, getting dominated by the Yankees, and every team, except for Seattle and them, have at least gone to the doorstep of getting to the bleeping World Series, and here are the Twins just always consistently falling short of those playoff expectations. It's frustrating. It's frustrating.
That's an amazing stat. I did not know that. I think that the stat that you mentioned, that 13 of the 15 have gone to the ALCS in particular, that really blows my mind. You would not, because you think of some teams as just consistent bottom feeders. And that's really not been the case. Like you said, even teams like the Royals, who mostly are a losing team, they had an amazing 2-year window where they went to the World Series and won a World Series. So, it shows you, I mean, that stat shows you the criticism is deserved. I mean, I think expectations need to be higher moving forward because it hasn't happened over the last 2 decades. So.
All right, sir. Well, good therapy session there as we number one, look to the future with Joe Ryan, hopefully helping out with the Twins, and also looking back on more ineptitude of Twins-Yankees debacle. Twins in Boston, obviously, this weekend. Are you getting out to any of those games?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. That's the plan.
Okay,
yeah.
great. Yeah. Well, we will talk next Monday, sir.
All right. Thanks, Tex. I appreciate it.